morning, everybody, and welcome to Community Connection. And you are going to be shocked that it's me over here. Can you tell that it's me over? I don't even know if they can tell in the audience if I'm in Mr. Day's seat or not, but I'm in Mr. Day's seat. He is actually in Tennessee visiting family, and he's going to be really bummed when he figures this out because Homes of Hope was his idea, and he's been looking forward to this. I'm kind of giving away who our guests are already, but anyway, I digress. But the first thing, we want to talk to Taylor today. And Taylor, I'm not going to call you that other name.
Thank you.
Because I think that you would feel funny if I called you that because it's Mr. Day's pet name for you, right?
Yeah.
Now, tell the audience what you're wearing today.
Claudia wants everyone to know that I'm wearing a dress today. It's a momentous occasion.
Taylor is wearing a dress. So, sometimes before Community Connection, well, she didn't come in this early, and she didn't wear dresses. So even though she's behind the scenes, know that she's looking fine. All right, we are going to switch gears quickly because we have some guests today that we're really excited. And I'm going to let Janice introduce our guests today.
Good morning, Claudia.
Morning.
I am very pleased to introduce two very special guests. Hunter and Meg are our guests from Homes of Hope program today.
Okay, so before we meet them, tell us about what Homes of Hope means and what it does and what it is.
Yep. Okay, so Homes of Hope, like you said, was one of Mr. Day's
many ideas.
Many ideas, and one that came to full fruition because he really desired to help those moms like his own who had really so many obstacles to parenting.
Right.
And so, and I'll tell you, when I was counseling and I sat in that chair and had mothers before me and recognized that one of the big things that they were missing is a support system and just a place to get grounded. This really resonated with me too. So anyway, Homes of Hope is a program that where single moms and their children under 5 can come and live for a year. So our acronym that describes it is HOPE. H is for housing, O is for opportunity, P is for parent training, and E is for engagement, really developing that that circle of support around every parent is needed. So these moms have some kind of risk for disruption. So our vision here is really to have families stay intact. And so our goal is to keep these families intact. So they have some obstacles to that. And so they're here and they're staying with us and building community within the home and then outside of the home. And they do a lot of incredible things. And so I admire these ladies because it takes a lot of humility, I think, to come and live in this space. And then it takes a lot of work to get, to achieve the things that they choose to work on to build the strength of their family. So,
and since today is a little bit unusual, we usually have guests that are nonprofit leaders or pastors or so I've told the ladies today that if there's a question that either Janice and I are asked that they don't want to answer, they can say or tell us to shut up or do a thumbs down or whatever, because we don't want it to be intrusive, but we do think that they have some things to share that will help us to understand a little bit more about what it's like to be in that situation, and also what we can do to help people who are maybe not even as strong as they are to ask for help. How do we figure out how to help? So, Janice, you can decide who we want to go first to tell their story.
Oh, wow. We forgot to draw straws at the beginning. So, okay, well, I'm gonna start with Meg then. And Meg, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. So, because I want you to share what you want folks to know about you and your family. Would you like to tell a little bit about your story? Or
Sure.
just about you?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Meg, and I have a 4-year-old named Dexter and a 15-month-old named Ezra. My story for this part of my life started with Dexter, and I moved from Colorado after a divorce and having no support out there to be closer to my parents who'd retired back to Virginia. Then 2020 came with all of its challenges and influence on daily life. And my parents and I were a lot closer than we wanted to be, than we had planned to be. And the stressors gave out to the point where CPS was involved, and I lost custody of my son Dexter right after he turned 2, and found myself living in my car and really not knowing anyone or having any kind of community here, because it had been my parents when I moved out Christmas 2019 and had no time to settle in or connect before life changed. So it led to quite a long time of instability, and during that time I ended up pregnant, and I also got into a relationship that resulted in some severe domestic violence, and found myself in the hospital with pneumonia and injuries for over a week during my second trimester. And shortly after that, I entered a shelter system. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with any of that, but a lot of it is 30 days. 30 days here, 30 days there, extensions, maybe, we'll see. Ask us the day of your exit. Really went through about a year and a half of not knowing where I was going to be in a couple weeks, and spent a long time in the hospital with Ezra when he was born through some difficulties and complications, and didn't know where we were going after the hospital. But every step of the way, things would unfold, and I grew a little and I grew a little, sometimes against my will, sometimes very eagerly wanting to grow. And around New Year's, I found myself again in a place where didn't know where I was going to be, was getting week by week extensions. At this point, had no car to sleep in. And one of the workers at the place that I was said, "You know what? I just heard of this place. One of my cousins, relatives, blah, blah, blah." She always has connections everywhere. Works here, and I think that you would do really well. If you can't do well here, I don't know what to tell you. And so she connected me, and within 10 days, I think, I pursued the intake process really, very eagerly. Within 10 days, I was coming to Homes of Hope. It was actually yesterday, 6 months to the day. That I came to Homes of Hope, really not knowing, never seeing the facility, never hearing about a place like this that had some year-long program, and really not knowing what I was going to, except that I was going somewhere for a year, which was a huge blessing at that point in my life. And my son, who at the time was about 9 months old, would not be changing housing anymore, not be really going to his first home since he'd ever had. And so that's what brought me to Homes of Hope. And he literally started walking less than a week after we got there. Oh, wow. So I think that little guy was just waiting for some solid ground under his feet.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for being brave and sharing all that. I want to speak into the one little piece of that, because I don't think that most people recognize those 30 days, how there's no way forward when you have a deadline. Like, there's no way to get to that next space, because the first thing you're thinking about, and I think we talked about this when we were talking about recovery, when Mark Boji was here, he was saying all of the 30-day programs he was in when he was in substance use disorder recovery time, he said the first day, all you're thinking about is the last day, and what am I going to do on that last day? And so, like, taking time to breathe and heal and figure things out, there's never time for that, because you're always thinking about the fact that there's a deadline. So, and I think that most people know that our year is a year-long program unless you're not ready, right? Mm-hmm. We don't have that year. You will absolutely move out on this day, kind of a feel to the program. And so I think that is something that makes us unique.
We want these families to step forward.
Right. So, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, are you ready to go to Hunter, or do you want to?
I think
know
Meg's ready for you to go to Hunter.
Yeah, okay. I have more questions later for for Meg. Well, Hunter, you are new to Homes of Hope, so I'd love for you to share whatever part of your story you'd like to.
Hi, I'm Hunter. I mean, far as back as I can remember, I was always pulled apart by my family. I had support everywhere when they wanted to support me. I always felt out. I always felt like the black sheep. My families loved me when I could love them. They don't understand mental health. They don't understand substance abuse, which I got myself into, thankful to a ex-boyfriend of mine. He was very abusive. I moved down here 3 years ago, and then I moved back up to Jersey, and then I moved back down here, and then started getting into the substance again. And I moved in with my grandparents, and then things started getting very hostile between her and I, and my grandmother raised me, basically. She was my mom. And I didn't want to destroy our relationship, so I tried to look for somewhere else so I could finally get on my own 2 feet. I didn't have to rely on someone, because that's what I have done my whole life. I have always found a man to support me. I've always just relied on family, and I wasn't just happy with myself. I knew I was missing something, so when the opportunity of Homes of Hope came up, I quickly jumped on that, because I want to be able to show my daughter, Mommy did this, Mommy was strong, I humbled myself, and I put my big girl panties on, and I moved in, and the first, I've been there a week and a half, and I have never felt more support than I have there. I mean, the moms that I have met, the people that I have met, the resources that I have come into, I finally feel like I'm going to survive. I'm going to succeed in life, and my daughter is going to be proud of me. It's God sent. I mean, I just found God 4 weeks ago. I went up to the altar and was delivered and saved, and I have never felt happier. I mean, I could lose everything, and Homes of Hope has really helped me. That's all I can say.
We want to hear a little bit about your daughter, though. How old is she?
She's 3.
And what's her name?
Skylar.
Skylar.
Yes, she is my miracle baby.
Okay.
Yeah, she's pride and joy.
Yeah,
She's adorable.
yeah, she is.
Her and Ezzy have really become best friends. I think they're lifelong best friends now.
She's the first day. I'll hold your hand.
They are a precious group of kids. It's a busy little place, isn't it?
And she's the only girl, which I think suits Skylar being the little princess, which is...
Yes.
You both have, we talked about how we want to prevent disruption. You've both had some reunification as well. Some, yeah.
Yeah, my grandparents had Skylar for a little while. When I came to Homes of Hope, I got her back. So never again. Never again. I will do everything in my power to keep our family together.
Yeah, it's been a long road for me with Dexter. It's, even though you make personal progress, mental health progress, you still don't have the things the court looks for, the job, the car, the home. And but my relationship with my parents has drastically turned around. There was a point where we weren't talking directly at all, only through intermediaries. And they invited me to their house for Christmas, which was huge. And I hadn't even been on their property for over a year and a half. And on my birthday at the end of June, I was able to have my first overnight with Dexter. And we've started building that into more than just 2 hours a week of visitation, but actually coming to my home, spending time. That's been huge. Mm-hmm. So
It's precious to see you all together.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you had a follow-up question that I interrupted you for Meg?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think I just asked it. But I do have another one. Yeah.
Okay, ask another one.
I'm curious about, to take the step to come into a home like this with other families. Everybody wants their privacy, right? Is a big step.
Yes.
And I know, Meg, I've heard you talk about reference readiness to change. Like maybe a year ago, you might not have come into the home. And it's not just about the home. It's about the support. It's about
The resources.
Yeah, absolutely. What makes you ready for these kind of steps?
Seeing what your life could be when your child's taken away, and that basically being your breaking point.
Yeah, I think I don't love the language I have to use to describe it because it sounds cliche or overused, but it is a little bit about your rock bottom, your never would I ever, I can't do this anymore. For me, it was a lot about my age. I turned 35 and then turned 36 the end of this past June, and kind of going like, oh my gosh, this is the only life I give. I'm given. This is all I've got, and I'm tired of feeling like I'm living in the before, waiting for the after. What am I going to do? Like, I remember being 25 and going, oh, I've only got 5 more years till I'm 30. Well, add 10 years to that. And I still feel like I'm in the starting, I'm not established as an adult, and I'm not living the life that I envisioned for myself, probably because I've waited for other people to complete that picture, like you were saying.
Yep.
And so really realizing that this is what I've got. This is what I'm given, and I'm going to do more with it than I have, and I'm not going to wait another 5 or 10 years to figure that out. So I think that through that loss and through the frustration and through the emptiness that you can see stretching in front of you of what you've sown or not sown and what you're now reaping or not reaping, you just recognize that this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable for myself, regardless of all those other voices that speak into your life. Those tend to just fade away, and you go, what do I want? What do I want my life to be? I'm not doing this for my family. I'm not doing this for society. I'm going to look at what I want my life to be because I have to live it, and this is the only one I have. And just really being willing to break all those other constructs down and decide what you're going to build. And this is such a wonderful place to go back and build the foundation and really put those stones in place that you're never going to be without again. I mean, you mentioned before the podcast started talking about circle of support, and I kind of did a mental review, and I'm thinking back to when I left the home, for college. I don't think I was ever taught what a circle of support was. I know that I had it built in as a child, but I don't know that I've ever worked to construct one as an adult. And I've hopped from different resources or communities, but actually understanding and knowing how to build one of my own was non-existent. So that's a skill, that's a part of my reality now that will always be there. It will never go away. And that's specifically because of my time at Homes of Hope.
Mm. And we were going to go to commercial, but I'm changing my mind. We're not going to have a commercial because I think this is rich and I think it's good. And I think we need to use our time to not see a commercial about something that we're talking about right now, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to skip it. Guys in the back. I think you said something really, really important, and you alluded to it, and I'm going to say it for you in a different way, and if it's not what you meant, you can stop me. But through Care Portal, I've become, as a volunteer, connected with several single moms. And I think, Hunter, you mentioned it a little bit, but there's this dream that there's going to be some guy that's going to step in and fix everything.
Yep.
And yet, in the position that a lot of single moms are in, the guy they dream of, they're not ready for them. And so they're not going to get that guy. What they're going to get is basically another child. Mm-hmm. And somebody who wants to be taken care of and who can't take care of them or who may be abusive. And so I think part of the breaking point comes, and it's almost like a light bulb goes on, if this child's going to have a healthy family, I'm their family. Yep. And maybe someday I'll be healthy enough to have the relationship I'm looking for, but I'm not going to settle. I'm not going to just whoever person comes in to rescue me, because 9 times out of 10, they're not coming in to rescue. They're coming in to use, and they're coming in to take advantage of, and they're coming in to be another dependent, to find somebody that's gonna am I?
Oh no, you're
Yeah.
Okay, you're both looking at me.
neither of us have said stop. So.
Okay, because I want to make sure that I'm not interpreting everybody's life that way. But the more I think about it, and it's not fair, but it's true. Because I've talked to people, and they're going to find someday, they're going to find a guy who's got a great job and a home and a car and a healthy childhood, and is going to come in and sweep them off their feet and solve all their problems. But that's not the kind of guys they end up finding, and then it just repeats the cycle. So I think it's really an important piece for a lot of single moms to get there, where this is, if it is to be with my children, it's up to me and nobody else. And I think both of you have come to that point and realized, I've got to be healthy, I've got to be better, I've got to be what my children need, even if I don't have anybody to do that. So we're going to switch gears again, and you kind of transitioned us into this circle of support idea. What does it feel like when you feel like there's nobody but you, like when there is no circle? I think you've both been there. What does it feel like?
Hunter, why don't you?
It just feels lonely. It feels like you are unloved. And
It feels absolute.
Oh, okay.
There-
That's an interesting word.
There's no alternative avenues. There's no alternative options. When you wake up in a car in the morning with your gas tank below E because you had to turn it on to keep warm, and you realize, you have no money. You even if you could get to the gas station, you have no money to put in your tank. There's very little in front of you. I mean, I parked outside of a hotel for about a week because I would walk in and get breakfast. And I'm pretty sure the front staff knew what was going on, even though I went in one door and went out another and kept myself presentable. But they were gracious enough to turn the other way. And I fed myself off of a hotel's breakfast for quite a while when I was...
That's pretty resourceful, though. I'm not sure I would have thought of that, so that's pretty resourceful.
Impressive.
But it was all that there was. There wasn't. That's the absolute of it. There. When you break down and you have no AAA and no one to call and no parents and you don't know anybody else and there's not as many 501c3s as there are. There's really not one for cars. I remember distinctly when my car went flat in the country road of all places, so not a lot of by traffic either. Just going like, well, I live here now. I live here. Like, I have $7 and no friends, and I guess I live here. I didn't even have cell service, so.
I remember one time I was in the bathroom after my ex had beaten me, and I had nowhere else to go. Mm-hmm. I mean, my family lived down here. My mom and dad wanted nothing to do with me. My sisters wouldn't even talk to me. So I remember it being very hard and like having nobody, nothing, feeling like you could be so unloved and feeling like, where did I go wrong? Where could I have made a difference?
And I think that it's really important. I'm actually using my filter. What?
What's going on?
Claudia has a filter? Because I don't want to say anything offensive, but I want to point out for our audience a difference. Because there was a mom in that kind of a situation. She did have housing, but she had moved here. She was away from family. She knew nobody in Lynchburg. She had just moved here. And there was a care portal request out there, and I was trying to help her get a dresser. She needed a dresser. And I was texting her, trying to get her to respond to tell me where to take the dresser. And she said, I'm sorry I haven't responded all day, but my 2-year-old is out of pull-ups. And I've spent the entire day trying to get somebody to loan me $10. And so perspective-wise, and this is not me bragging, it's just perspective for those of the people who are out there, I have 500 people on Facebook that if I called them on the phone and said, can you send me $10 on Cash App, no questions asked, they all would. Like, I've been spending my entire life building a circle of support, and I've lived in so many different towns that now they're everywhere. I could probably drive from here to California and never get a hotel if I wanted to, right? Because I've built that for years and years, because I was raised in a family that knew how to build a support system and how to build relationships, and a family who was supportive for me. And so it really struck me that day. And I hadn't met her, and I usually don't do this, but I'm like, what's your Cash App, right? I can give you $10 to get diapers. But it just struck me that I had all those people out there that, without even thinking about it, would do it. And the opposite of that is what you guys are describing, this absolute, there is nobody but me, and I'm out of resources. I have nothing left. And so in those kind of situations, I think that is what the motivation is, to move into a program where you have to humble yourself and you have to finally admit what's happening here is broken, and I can't fix it by myself. And that's what gets people into a program like ours. And then we watch miracles happen when people are ready, right?
Yeah.
When they're really at that point and they're ready to change, they do. And they can build that life for their kids, and they can be successful. And it's such a rewarding thing for us to see people who are actually ready that are able to make that happen.
Yeah. I have to say, the ladies sitting here and the others in the home and those that have gone before them, they're strong. They're loving moms. And I see every day some beautiful, beautiful parenting, and little ones getting loved and getting the foundation that they need, because that early intervention for them, which comes from the parent, it can be life-changing. So they're breaking chains. I think about, I mentioned the HOPE, housing, opportunity, parent, education, and engagement. That E, man, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. That's what we're talking about, engagement, like building that support system, because and that doesn't instantly happen because you walk in our doors, right? And so I think we do what's familiar. All of us do. And you mentioned Claudia. That's how you lived your life from the beginning, building this support. But not everybody does. And then there's the school of hard knocks, that life, circumstances and trauma. And trauma happens in relationships normally, most often. And so there are all these scars. And so building relationships with different types of people, or people who are at a different stage of life, is really challenging, I think. And I think that in this work, I find that that's one of the biggest obstacles. So where do you find healthy people? Where does a single mom go who doesn't know anybody, who also has kids, to just shoot the breeze and get to know someone? And so where do you go? And I know our typical answer is, how about the church? And that is a good answer. That is a good place. But that doesn't mean that it's any easier, unfortunately.
Oh, harder.
Yeah. And so, because a lot of times there's extreme differences in just lifestyles or history, or people don't wear their history on their sleeves. So I think that I'm still asking the question. I don't have the answer. Where do we go? But I know that there are some amazing people that I've seen step into that space and make a difference, because I believe that it is meaningful relationships that make a difference. And so I wonder if you guys have anything to say about that, about the needs, like how, and your successes or challenges in finding people to connect with.
Sure. Did you have something you wanted? Okay, I'll jump in because I know we're getting a little short on time. I think that as much as many people's hearts want to go towards Maslow's pyramid of needs and go to the higher levels, even though we have shelter, it's still a lot of base things. So I think that when I search out community and circle of support, I look for people who understand, kind of have a reverse humility, if you want to throw that phrase back to the other side of the court, and say, sometimes I just need you to hold my kid, because I'm tired of holding him as much as I love him. Sometimes I just need you to come with me to get groceries. Or, it sounds so basic, but when you've struggled so long just to establish those, feeling that all of that is firm and that you don't have to explain to someone all of your trauma or all of your mental growth and all that, and you can just have someone accept that you need this physical support right here, right now. It's easy. The one challenge I would say, as I was thinking about this, is if you're asking yourself how you can support a mom or where the need is, go throughout your day and notice how many times somebody in your life who you probably take for granted steps in and helps you, holds the door, carries something, takes something out of your hands when you're walking, gives you a word of encouragement, touches you. How long have we gone without touch before? Healthy touch.
Yep.
And notice all of those things that you normally don't notice because they're so ingrained in your life. That's what we need.
That's a big deal to us.
Yeah.
Wow,
I gotta
man, you guys were amazing.
sit with that a minute.
You guys were amazing. Thank you. And
Thanks for having us.
Usually we have our guests look at the camera and ask you. I'm going to do it on behalf of the girls. The only way Homes of Hope really works is if there are a lot of people who are willing to step into the relationship space and do all those kind of things. And Homes of Hope is a place we can connect you there. Care Portal is a place we can connect you there. We have other volunteer opportunities here at Patrick Henry. You can step into a space to not do everything for someone, to be a piece of a puzzle, right? Because it's just what Meg just said. It's just so powerful. Think of all the different people and the little things that they do. And if you can find a way to do a little thing for one person, and we can get the entire community to do little things for a person, then families can stay together and kids can be safe, families can be strong, and Vision 30 will happen. So we'll see you I won't see you next Thursday because I'm out of town, but Mr. Day in this seat, we'll see you next Thursday. Thanks for being part of Community Connection.
Nobody gets to choose their family. If a person is fortunate enough to be born into a healthy family, then life can be much like floating down a smooth, gentle river in the summertime. But an unhealthy family is like a dangerous river, filled with rocks, debris, and fast-moving water. This river swiftly leads to the steep waterfall of adulthood, tragically forming a new river of dysfunction. Even if you aren't born into an unhealthy river, there are many streams that cause a person to get there. But there is only one way to get out, and that is through a meaningful relationship. Across our region, there are many agencies, churches, and families who are devoted to helping children escape from unhealthy rivers. Some feel their role is to wade in and rescue children. They foster, adopt, or provide safe families. Others stand by the river and support the rescuers by providing what they need. Still, others are upstream and stand in the gap to keep children from ending up in the negative situations. At Patrick Henry Family Services, we see ourselves as having an additional role. We are running up and down the shores of the unhealthy river, screaming, "Can't you see the children in the water? You have to do something." Vision 30 is a 10-year initiative. By 2030, we envision a region where all children are safe in their own family, or with caregivers who are supported by a local faith community. So, where do you stand at the river? Are you upstream, keeping families together and strong by standing in the gap? Are you in the river, directly impacting children? Are you on the shore, providing support for the brave folks who have entered the river? Or are you just passing by without noticing? No matter who you are, come down to the river with us. Let us help you find your place. Not only will lives be changed, but you will never be the same.